right now, today, while I'm talking to you, I don't notice it. I could probably find it. The volume's gone down. And so probably hundreds of times a day, I would reframe and reframe and reframe over and over and over. A lot of work. And I thought, I'm going to do this work. I was committed. All bothersome tinnitus can be made not bothersome.
Annie, thank you for joining the Tinnitus Relief podcast. I'm really excited to share your story. I know it will help many people. So let's jump into how you reduced and improved tinnitus over time. Um, the data that I saw showed a significant improvement, and I'm really excited to hear your personal story. So where are you today, and could you give some context of where tinnitus was at its worst and the kind of changes you experienced over time?
About a year ago, tinnitus started. It seemed like it was overnight, but when I look back, probably had been having little bouts of it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks before it came on full time. Um, Before it started, I had been dealing with some really um, tragic things going on in my life, not just one of them, but a few of them. And I was also dealing with chronic stress. And I think that, in combination with my mild hearing loss, more significant in the high frequency range, I was a perfect candidate for tinnitus. Uh, so when it set in, it turned my life upside down. And I had been dealing with insomnia before it came on. And so I was in a really very dark place. Dr. Ben, I wasn't sleeping. I couldn't eat. I was in constant fight or flight, freeze mode, just constant. So that's where I was when it started. Um, and fast forward to today, after working with Dr. Ramsey and Treble Health, I am enjoying life more than I was before tinnitus. I'm a different person now.
Well, that's why we're here to share your story and to help others learn the things that you developed over time. In that sense, for those who are listening who are in a challenging place with tinnitus, who would like to reduce the volume and improve their life, what's some advice you have for people, based on your story? I think just talking about the actual challenges you went through and how through each of those challenges you found tools or resources that helped improve them.
Yes, so everything in my daily life was a challenge. I didn't know how I was going to move forward. I think one of the things that I did, I went online when it started, and really, Dr. Ben, one of the first things I saw was your 7-day meditation challenge. Thank goodness that's the first thing, and I thought I will try this. I'm going to try anything. And I think they were like 20 minutes long, maybe a little longer. And doing that for 7 days gave me 20 minutes of relief each day. That was the only relief I think I had. I thought, the meditation was so helpful. I probably listened to that, I don't know, dozens and dozens of times. Very helpful. I connected with Treble Health, fortunately, within a couple weeks of the full onset. And so just knowing that I needed a sound rich environment, and so I started listening to nature sounds or Dale Snail, love his sounds, and carrying my cell phone with me all the time with whatever sounds help me out. And then I connected, had my free consultation, and within like a day, I think I called, was hooked up. Within a couple weeks, I decided, yes, I want to do this program and get the maskers. And with the hearing loss, I got the hearing aid component as well. So it was a no-brainer for me to do this. And it just was within I'd say 3 weeks, I was connected with Dr. Ramsey. And with her, we developed a great treatment plan, a lot of helpful things. So the sound rich environment, absolutely helpful. And the maskers immediately gave relief, just took the edge off this horrible anxiety I was having and helped me get through the days. So, and as time went on, the neuroplasticity of the maskers, wonderful. I don't even know words to say how helpful that is. And then I didn't take on too much. Initially, when I developed tinnitus, my first thing is I just need to get rid of it. I don't know how to get rid of it. It has to go away completely. Um, but just to kind of relax into it, pick a couple self-soothing things to work on. Don't pick too many things and get scattered. Just stay focused on those and stick with them.
I love that. And then you described the maskers. Those are also referred to as sound therapy devices that go on the ears. Um, Sometimes they can also be hearing aids that are programmed for tinnitus treatment. So could you explain to us what you mean by maskers for those who don't know?
Absolutely. And for me, I opted for the hearing aid component as well because I have hearing loss. So it's just little devices you put in your ear and it blows whatever sound you want. You work with your audiologist to pick sounds that are pleasant to you or at least you feel neutral about. So I picked something that I use most of the time was a Zen sound, just a light blowing sound. I use some waves as well. Yeah, and that's what the sound, the maskers are. Just gives you a different sound. I didn't necessarily focus on it, like, now I'm going to focus on that. It just was there and cut the edge. So, but also, it's a hearing aid for me as well.
Do you have tinnitus or ringing in the ears? What I'd like you to know is that relief and treatment is possible. The first step for most people is to speak to an expert audiologist who can analyze your case and recommend specific solutions. I created a team at Treble Health that is focused on tinnitus treatment, and you can speak to one of the experts on our team for free. On the screen right now, you'll see an option to schedule a free consultation with a specialist from our team where we can provide some advice and get you on your path towards relief. All you have to do is click that link right there, and you can book a consultation with a specialist from my team at Treble Health. Now back to the podcast. Annie, how do you respond to the common belief by many people that there's nothing that can be done for tinnitus? And were there doctors or information that told you that?
Yes, and I'm so thankful that I had watched your YouTube videos and other helpful YouTube videos because when I went to my healthcare providers, I mean, I was told there's nothing that can be done, just learn to live with it. If I had not heard from Treble Health that that's not true, I would have been devastated in such a terrible place. So when I went to my general practitioner and heard, oh, you just need to learn to live with it. And when I went to a local audiologist who's like, oh, you have a hearing loss, there's really nothing that can be done about it. I would have been devastated, but I knew, no, I will not believe that. I know something can be done. There's evidence-based treatment plans that work.
Let's go deeper into that because you did find things that worked. So what is your message when if you were to tell those doctors, hey, actually you were wrong, I did find something that worked for me, and you can share, did your tinnitus volume improve? Did it decrease? Did it change? Talk to us about the actual real world results you got.
Well, I have a good relationship with my general practitioner, and a really quick story is he does a lot of work with med students. And when I went to see him when it was horrible, I mean, I was in a very dark place, a med student came in before I met with my GP, and I said, yeah, I'm having tinnitus and it's really kicking me in the butt, and I'm having a hard time moving forward. And this young man said, oh, I I don't want to share too much personal, but I also have tinnitus, and it started. I think I was listening to music too loud, and I've had it for 3 months, and I'm in a dark place too. So I was like, oh wow. And then when the general practitioner came in, my doctor said, "There's nothing that can be done." I was trying to advocate for this young man as well, and I said, "That's really a harmful thing to tell people." So I gave him resources. I gave him your website. And I said, please share this with people. There's so much that can be done. Um, yeah, so I think working with Treble Health, there's Dr. Ramsey helped me build this great tool chest so I could pick from things to help me out when I needed it. And so it was the maskers. That's passive, and that was wonderful to have in that cut the edge. Um, Dr. Ramsey and I worked really hard on CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and so That got me through. I think that was the most important thing, is just reframing, noting my small wins uh, throughout the day. So helpful.
That's excellent because those two components are often the two main pillars for tinnitus treatment, the sound therapy treatment with devices on the ears, plus the cognitive behavioral techniques. Talk to us about your actual experience of the sound today. How is it different than when this was at its worst? How aware are you less aware of it? Is it a lower volume? I think we're curious to hear that.
Oh, absolutely. When I started, I never could put numbers. I just didn't want to. I stayed away, but it was loud. It fluctuated a lot. And so I never knew day to day, like, is it going to be a bad day or good day? Totally don't think that way anymore. That's detrimental thinking. Very loud, very intrusive. It's all I could think about most of the time. I think probably when it came on, it took a couple of months for it to change. And I worked hard with Dr. Ramsey, and I really worked hard. Right now, today, while I'm talking to you, I don't notice it. I could probably find it. The volume's gone down. Fluctuations totally have changed. Probably since I stopped working with Dr. Ramsey 3 months ago, I've had maybe 3 days where there were an hour or so where I thought, okay, that's really annoying. I need to do some self-soothing. So night and day difference. It's there. It doesn't affect my life at all.
Wow, I think that's an incredible message that if tinnitus say can improve 50%, 80%, which happens a lot for our patients in our community, that is a life-changing experience for many
Hmm.
people. So it's very different from this narrative of there's nothing that can be done. What those doctors are actually trying to communicate is I don't have a medication, I don't have a pill, I don't have a surgery, I don't have a surgical procedure to fix this for you.
Hmm.
So I can't do anything. But you, the patient, you, Annie, you can do things, and that's what you learned. You learned how to do them, you know, in a professional program as well as part of a tinnitus treatment protocol, which certainly streamlines the process. Um, wow. So the CBT piece of it, I think a lot of people will hear that and go, I'm not really sure what that means. It's kind of this big umbrella term. Practically speaking, what did you do in that regard? And did it help? Concentration, anxiety, stress, getting out of the fight or flight, fall asleep? Tell us how it impacted your life.
Oh, absolutely. The CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, I journaled every day. I would count wins, small wins throughout the day. I wasn't seeing any wins. I was in gloom, doom, panic mode. And just writing down and reviewing, I would have small wins, very small initially. Like it might have been, I forgot about tinnitus for 10 minutes today, and it was delightful. So, very small wins, and they grew. And reflecting on those, the biggest thing for me is not getting on the worry train because I was worrying, am I going to go deaf? Is this going to affect my hearing? What if it gets way worse? How am I going to live this way? Just everything we go through with the onset of tinnitus to get off that train. Don't get on the train. And if I'm on that train, jump off quickly and reframe. And Dr. Ramsey was so helpful in our first session, so positive and a genuine positivity, not phony in any way, but like, of course you're going to get better. All bothersome tinnitus can be made not bothersome. Took notes on that and I thought, oh, okay. And so when I was feeling negative or down, I would just reframe, of course I'm getting better. I am working on this. I looked at my small wins. I wrote down what I'm grateful for. I lost gratitude. All gratitude was gone. So, write down what am I grateful for? And so probably hundreds of times a day, I would reframe and reframe and reframe over and over and over. A lot of work. And I thought I'm going to do this work. I was committed. To me was what CBT was, just changing my thoughts.
Fascinating because your mind was in this automatic negative reaction place, and if
Hmm.
you let it go on its own accord, you'd be on the worry train. You'd be in a fear response. you'd be thinking worst case scenarios about your tinnitus. But using the reframe tool is to notice those thoughts, those automatic thoughts that you have no control over coming up, and then change what you believe essentially, changing the
Hmm.
story to something that is true. Because in your case, well, that absolutely turned out to be true that you did get better. And that's
Hmm.
amazing to, actually have the lived experience to be able to tell. And for those who are curious, we do measure tinnitus with something called the Tinnitus Functional Index. It gives a score from 1 to 100, 100 being the worst, 1 being no problem. And it essentially measures how tinnitus impacts areas like our sense of control, our sleep, our relaxation, our concentration, our stress, etc. And your score with us when you first started was a 52 out of 100, which is a serious problem. And
Hmm.
at the end, it was a 2. A 2 is one of the lowest scores we'll ever see. So that's really remarkable. I'm just really proud of where you are and the work you've put in. For those listening who think, okay, Annie, that's great. Some of those CBT techniques sounds like I can do them. I don't really have a professional sound therapy system yet, but I want the results that you have. Of course, not every tinnitus is the same, not every case is the same. We can't give a general recommendation for every single person. But do you have any advice towards, where you were earlier, or people listening who might be looking for that edge to get them even 20%, 40% better over the next few months?
Yes, the sound rich environment was so helpful. And you, I think recently had a little video up about comparing the sound to light and how if you're in a dark room and there's one candle going, of course we'll focus on that candle. So that would be the tinnitus. Having music on while you're making dinner or having a nice nature sound or some sound that helps distract away initially, just distract, get away from it. So the maskers were gold standard. So if people can do that, I would highly recommend that. It cut the edge. It just helped me breathe a little bit and helped me do the CBT.
So what do you
Um,
mean by sound-rich environment? Let's start there.
yeah, so I probably before tinnitus, I say both, deprived myself of sound. I'm utilitarian. I get busy. I do what was on my list. I'm going to get this done. So, like, stop. For me, sound rich was I might have a fan on. I might open the window to listen to the birds and hear the wind. I will have cooking music on. Just generally have another sound going pretty much all the time. Initially, I used the sound machine that came with your package at night. That really helped me sleep. I mean, I was struggling with insomnia before. That sound machine that really was helpful. Yeah, so sound rich for me is just having nice sounds throughout the day and night.
Exactly, exactly. And the theory there is if we're in silence, we might think, oh, I want to eventually be in silent places and not be bothered by tinnitus. So I'm going to try to force myself through it with my willpower to just be in silent places and get through it. And that seems almost logical, but it's actually the wrong approach for tinnitus treatment because we want to use sounds in the background or devices on the ears for the sound therapy or the sound machine. All of these
Hmm.
fall under the umbrella of creating a sound-rich environment during daytime hours. When we can do that consistently, it allows our brain to habituate or reduce the tinnitus signal over time in our perception. Often the volume perception improves as well, and eventually you get to the point where you can be in that quiet room and you actually don't need the sound rich environment anymore. So I'm curious where you are today. Your tinnitus score is a 2 out of 100.
Hmm.
Are you in quiet spaces and it's quiet and you're okay with that? Tinnitus isn't impacting you? Or do you still prefer some background noise? A lot of people still prefer, light music or a fan
Hmm.
or something in the background. So how do you approach that today with the sound rich environment?
Yeah, so for the last 3 months, I haven't used my maskers, so I haven't needed them. And I thought if I do, I'll put them in. But really, so for 3 months without that ongoing sound, definitely can be in a quiet room. Most of the time, there's times where I'm like, oh, I want some sound. But for me, I enjoy music now. So I will always have, not always, but I love to listen to classical music. I'll have that on. I've always slept with a fan. I still do that. But yeah, being in a quiet room, which I love that too, I'm able to do that now. That's gold. It's golden.
Really glad to hear that. Let's talk about sleep, and then we'll go into any final recommendations here for
Okay.
our listeners. What's your core message about sleep? How did you overcome this insomnia related to tinnitus?
Yeah, and so like I said, I had insomnia before tinnitus that I was struggling with as part of my chronic stress and the life situations I was going through. Tinnitus kicked in, and so I initially used a sleep aid from my doctor, and that helped. I had a really pretty strict bedtime routine. I would calm down with a meditation, some light yoga, had to have lighting just right, would go to bed. If I couldn't sleep for a while, I would get up and do some stretches and just keep over and over and over sticking to that routine. That sound machine really helped. That I would say overall that helped the most because nighttime, I think for a lot of us with tinnitus, wake up and there's that sound. I'm not going to get back to bed. What? What? So then I'm going to focus on that sound machine. So if people can get a sound machine, I highly recommend it.
I love that. We can include a link to that specific sound machine in the description on YouTube. And if anyone would like to speak with a specialist from Treble Health, we also have a link we'll include up here where you can schedule a free consultation and potentially get results similar to Annie, who worked in our program. Any last comments or words of hope, encouragement for those listening with tinnitus that, like I said, even a 20% improvement would make a big difference in their
hmm
lives?
I think to be able to conquer the fears, I think fear kept me in a place where I didn't need to be as long. So to be able to know it will get better, it is going to get better. And evidence shows it won't get worse. If your hearing changes and gets progresses, it doesn't mean tinnitus is going to take over your life and be horrible. So to be able to conquer the fear and to accept for now tinnitus is with me for now. I'm accepting that. It's annoying sometimes and I'm going to go out and have fun with my friends. And I'm going to live a rich and meaningful life. And I think through Dr. Ramsey and group coaching, so helpful that instead of being fearful, which is, when you're in a dark place, that's what you are, fearful, but to work through that and process through it and become curious. Curious about your tinnitus, curious about your life. I think curiosity helped a ton. And just to expose yourself to your tinnitus little bits at a time, like I'm going to listen to it even if it's for 10 seconds, or I'm going to listen to it now for 10 minutes. It's going to be a part of me, just incorporating it. And it helped me through the 4 phases of habituation. And now I'm in 4, and I've got my life back, and it's truly better than it was before.
Annie, thank you so much for sharing your story. You're an inspiration and continue on your path of health and doing good work. Thank you so much for being here. After watching today's podcast, you know that tinnitus treatment is not only real, but it's within reach. If you'd like to work with a specialist from my team at Treble Health, we offer a free consultation to learn more about how we can help you. Click the link on this screen right now where you can schedule a free Zoom consultation with a member from my team at Treble Health. A full recovery from tinnitus is possible, so hang in there, guys, and reach out to Treble Health if you need help.